The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast without the breaks and commercials. Now, here's host Dom Geneva.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. This is Dom Geneva, your host, with one of my favorite Rochester. Well, you're not really a Rochesterian, from Syracuse, actually, right?
Rome, which is not far from Syracuse.
Yeah, that's okay. Rome,
Central New York.
You are from the suburbs.
Yes.
of Syracuse.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott Pitoniak, sports writer, writer all told, author. The last I talked to you, you had, 35 books that you...
35, yeah. If you the ones I've contributed chapters to and edited and so forth.
You got two more now, right? I mean, so it's 37, right?
Well, no, those were 35. That was 35.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, that's pretty good. I like to say I don't think I've read 35 books. I really do. I'm one of those people. I read one chapter and just fall asleep and whatever. And that's I would progress a lot further in my life if I actually could read. But I have to tell you, not to blow smoke at you, but you're one of my most favorite Rochesterians that I've met through this show. I mean, the thing about Scott is that he writes about sports in such a wonderfully musical way. The expression I have is not everybody who plays the piano can make music. When you write about sports, the human condition. It goes beyond just the stats of the game itself, and you always have this view of sports in a philosophical and human way that comes through in your writing. I really admire what you do.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I always enjoy talking to you because I think we share a curiosity about everything, I guess, particularly about people and what makes people tick, and that's the thing that always fascinated me, Dom, is like I always thought, like when I was writing a column or a feature or whatever, and it might only be like 800 words or whatever, limited by space in a newspaper or whatever. You were kind of writing a mini biography, or it might just be a slice of someone's life or whatever. And I've just always been fascinated by people. Like I love people's journeys. Like, how did you get here? Mm-hmm. We've all taken really circuitous journeys. It's not a straight line. And, had we gone this way in this direction rather than this direction, how different our lives would have been. So I'm always fascinated by that and about fate, like, again, the decisions we make and how those impact us and how circumstances and how people in our lives influence us as well. So that's always fascinated me, and that's always been a big part of sports, I think. Like whether this happens to this team, if this guy had gone to this team, been drafted by this team as opposed to that team, how would have things turned out? Mm-hmm. Maybe not good, maybe much better. And I see it all the time.
Well, sports is one of those things it's ultimately human. I mean, yes, there are animals that might, fool around or play and stuff like that, but it's not organized sports. Yeah. Sports are something that makes us human. It's a shared experience. It is a connection to the past. And there are different flavors of sports. I mean, I was thinking about it before you came in today. There are sports that are performances, which is, ice skating, figure skating. Mm-hmm. There are sports that you need equipment, and it's the equipment has something with the sports. It's golf. You need that. Okay. There's sports that you just try to dominate the other person, whether it's boxing or football
or tennis.
Or tennis. There's a psychological a connection with any of that stuff. And then there's just human against human. I mean, there's track and field where you're running, there's no equipment there other than, your shoes or whatever. And these are all under the umbrella of sports, but they're completely different experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that intrigues me. Like, I like virtually every sport. There are some that I don't care for or care less for than others, but,
curling.
Well, curl, I don't know. I'll have to give it a shot. I mean, how much, you can have a beer out there, right? And while you're doing it, and sweep that broom and stuff, that'd be kind of interesting, I suppose. And you got to keep your footing.
Well,
we're going to get everybody upset with us now, right?
No, yeah, I'll tell you a story either during the break or before we go into a break about somebody yelling at me about my view of curling. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, so it's the old wide world of sports intro, like I'm really dating myself now about the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. But I'm interested in, I've covered sports I had no clue at first, like at the Olympics. We're a big fencing center here in Rochester. We were like the epicenter of Olympic fencing for women in particular. And so I guess my thing was like, I don't know a lot of the ins and outs, but I know people.
Yeah.
And I know how much it means to an athlete to try to excel and work at it. And that's, so that's what I focused on.
And what a wonderful segue to the next topic I want to bring up, how it bonds a community sometimes, like with the Bills.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're... there's no question. And I've talked, like John Murphy did a book with him, the longtime voice of the Bills, radio voice of the Bills. And we talked about like how much people invest of themselves, of their money, their emotions, you name it, their well-being into a sports team. And the Bills are really, they're really unusual in their tug and pull and hold on people. It really is different than most fan bases. I think some of it is, some of it has to do with where we are. We're in upstate New York, and we have all this abuse that we take about our weather, our economy, our this, our that. And we kind of get tired of it. And I think, I saw this like when the Bills went to the Super Bowl. I saw them rise, and I saw this community spirit lift up. And it's like, yeah, well, we got a football team that's going to the Super Bowl. You don't. And there's a lot of that. But you also touched upon, I think, the communal thing. It's a galvanizing thing, and I really worry about where we are as a society and a world. We're so polarized now. We hate one another for your political beliefs or this and that. And, sports is still one of the few things, sadly or positively, that, brings us together, and we can put aside our differences. It really does. And so it's still important.
What you just did is you kind of put a thought in my mind. I'm from the New York City metropolitan area. You expect your team to win. And if they don't win, you want to fire the coach. You want to fire the owner. You want to fire. In New York, you're like, wow, we got the Bills.
Yeah.
Do we really deserve to have the Bills? We're Western New York. Yeah. This is really cool. These guys are nice. Yeah. I like these guys. Yeah. Right.
Well, and I think
it's a different feeling. Like you're wonderful. You're rooting for them. You hope that they win, but it's not something like, well, we paid for this win. You need to, like the Yankees, right? Yeah. And in the day they used to say it's like rooting for U.S. Steel.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah, no, there's, and they're out in the community. Think about it. Buffalo it's a small town. It's a city, but it's a small town, and there's, this is a source of pride and aggravation at times. The Buffalo Bills and stuff. And I think it's a galvanizing force that really pulls this community together. And when I say community, I'm talking about the entire Western New York region, because Rochester certainly is part of it. And even going into Southern Ontario and down to the Southern tier, it is, and all the way over to Central New York, really. It is something that unites us, and it's a source of pride. And, so there are a lot of positives. But again, it can be bad when things don't go well,
Well, right after the break, I want to talk to you, touch a little bit about how they wove their way into the community. And part of that is the mafia, the Bills Mafia, and what they do. And we're going to talk about that right after this. This segment of the No Nonsense Roundtable is brought to you by McClure, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Chevy, and Buick, and Perry. Hey, all new car dealers pay the same price for their new cars and trucks. There's no volume discount. So your buying decision now comes down to price and ease of doing business. Family owned for generations, you'll find John McClurk himself there in the dealerships day to day, and you get a great no-nonsense deal you'll be hard-pressed to find anywhere else. Contact them at McClurkChryslerDodgeJeep.com or simply go to NoNonsenseRoundtable.com to connect with them. This section of the show is sponsored by Fanatics Pub in Lima. It's real close, boys and girls. Just go down Route 390, 10 minutes south of Marketplace Mall to exit 10. Make a left, go past 2 lights, and you're right there. This coming week, Saturday, February 24th, they have the Taz Crew Band. Great food, great music, and the owner, Jim Shelley, is always there to greet you at the door. Go to fanaticspub.com for tickets, and I'll see you there. Well, welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We're here with one of my favorite people, is Scott Pitoniak, author, sports writer, humanitarian, all-round good guy, and he answers my phone calls, which not everybody does. But it's a star in my book. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
You got to raise your bar a little bit there.
I have my standards. They're low, but I have them. The question that I wanted to ask you is about the Bills Mafia. See, I mean, like a really nice group of people that do things outside the scope of sports to just I guess do charitable work and supporting the community and whatever. And are there organizations? Is that common? Because no. It's not. Okay.
It's not.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
No, I think they're a unique fan base because of that. I mean, that's not to say that others don't contribute to charities, but they're creative. Tyler Bass misses the field goal wide right. The Bills lose. Another Super Bowl quest is dead to the Kansas City Chiefs and so forth. And so what do? Like you've got a bunch of people now, there's a small percentage of people, particularly now who are empowered by the internet, cowards, who are attacking Tyler Bass to the point, I mean, they're threatening his life, that he deactivates his social media account. Uh-huh. So what does Bills Mafia do, the true core of the fans? They find out that, Tyler Bass had a rescue cat. He did some promotional work for a cat rescue house in the Buffalo area that places like a couple thousand stray cats a year to homes, finds homes for them. So what do? They get behind that, and all of a sudden money is pouring in increments of $22, like, his number's 2. So they go like, well, we're not going to give $2. Let's give $22. And they raised, the last I heard, Dom, they were up to $400,000. So there's going to be like 2,000 cats, that have to be prepared and so forth, and then homes to be found for them, who are going to find homes as a result of this what started out as a really bad thing with people acting like idiots towards Tyler Bass to a fantastic thing. And this happens time and time again.
Yeah, what this tells me about them, not to be a psychologist, but it seems to be that they understand that they're fans, they want the team to win, but there's more important things than sports. We're not going to deride somebody or threaten them or get angry at them because they made a good faith attempt and they didn't come through. That's life.
Yeah. There was a funny one they did, Dom, one time. I forget if it was a game against the Baltimore Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs or whatever. It was not in the eyes of Bills Mafia, not a well officiated game. There were a few questionable phone calls that went through against the Bills that a lot of people thought cost them the game. Anyway, they donated to an organization that helps people who are visually impaired and blind. Now, I mean, again, you took something and you turned it into a positive. Yeah. And talk about like in other cities, like people take out billboards to fire a coach, to fire an owner as if an owner is going to fire himself, right? Yeah. And it's a waste of money. I mean, the advertising company that runs the billboard loves it. You took this out next to Madison Square Garden. Get rid of Jim Dolan, the owner of the New York Knicks. We're tired of him and this and that. What's that going to do?
Yeah, it boils down to I think the concept of there's businesses, there's sports teams where they get it. You know, they just get it. It's like the Red Wings. The Red Wings get it. You know, you love the Red Wings, which is one of my marketing statements. People don't buy completely satisfied. They buy love. You know, I love my Subaru. You know, that's why they do that, right?
Right.
And the thing about the Bills, and especially these ads that Channel 8's been doing, which I really, you know, okay, it's okay, Bills. You know, you didn't get there, but we love you anyway.
Right.
You know, that is it. I mean, that is the holy grail of a fan base. I mean, when they're that loyal to you and they love you, even though you made a valiant attempt, you didn't get there. But you know, life's more important than sports.
Yeah, and again, I think it gets back to the mindset of a region and stuff. Like when a region that's been abused from outsiders and so forth, you know, who people have never lived here and really don't know. It's a tremendous place to be, and the quality of life here, you know, it's just these outside erroneous misperceptions, you know, and I think, you know, it's kind of like you get your back up and say like, oh yeah, well, you know, we got a lot going for us here, and one of the things that we really do have going for us is a sense of community.
Well, you know, you're touching on something that I learned in one of my organizational behavior courses in college, and it said that pressure from outside an organization brings it together, and pressure from inside tears it apart. Okay, and I mean, having worked for Chrysler, I certainly have experienced that. You know, when we almost went out of business in 1978 or 79, I mean, it brought us all together as a team. You know, trying to overcome, you know, this tremendous problem.
It's the old Chris Berman line, like nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, you know, and you know, and nobody has a bigger heart than Bills Mafia when it comes to these types of things of like, this is how we're going to support our team. This is how we're going to support our community. I just really feel that there is this, you know, it's deeper than just rooting for a sports team. There's something greater going on
something
here.
there. Well, you know, the Dodgers, we talked about that before the show. You know, them bums. You know, people's hearts were broken, you know, when they left Brooklyn. I mean, you identified as somebody from Brooklyn. I'm from the New York area. Nobody ever said, I'm from Queens. You know, it was Brooklyn was like the anti-Manhattan.
Right.
You know, like, you got all this money, but we're cool. You know, we can, you know what, you can come into our neighborhood and, you know, and you know, we're protecting our own sort of thing. You know?
Well, there was a sense of community there.
Yeah.
It was a small town. Like, you know, even in the biggest city in the United States, you know, there are neighborhoods.
That's exactly right.
You know, and even if you live in an apartment building or whatever, there's, you know, your neighbors. And so you have a group of people. So there's a neighbor, no matter how big things get. And I think, the Brooklyn and their love of the Dodgers, and that when Walter O'Malley moved that team to Los Angeles, they literally ripped the heart out of that community. And I saw this happen with Cleveland and the Cleveland Browns, you know, when Art Modell moved that team to Baltimore. It had the same impact on Cleveland that, you know, the Dodgers leaving, you know, Brooklyn had on Brooklyn. I mean, again, it's more than a game. It's more than a team. And we can argue about, is that healthy or not? I think it is. But yeah, there are times when it's not healthy, that, you know, you're investing a little bit too much emotion or time or money into this team, you know, whatever. I can see some of that, but I think for the most part, it's a good thing.
Well, we're about ready to head into another break, and half the show is gone, and we haven't talked about the Super Bowl yet. I mean, the amazing thing, that the number one television program anywhere for all time. You know, I mean, the dynamics of this, you know, between the Taylor Swift thing and, you know, my Lord, I mean, there's a million stories here. You know, so have you written your column yet for the RBJ?
Yeah.
Okay, you have written.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to finish it up after the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody, so you know, this is a recorded show. So that's why I asked the question. We're sitting here on Tuesday, and we are about ready to head into a break, and we'll see you after the news. This is Dom Genova for my friends at Valley Fuel. It was decades ago that Phil Saunders called me up and said he was starting a new company, Valley Fuel. And man, I got to tell you, this has been a great experience. If you're looking for affordable propane or home heating oil, contact Valley Fuel. If you want reliable delivery, contact Valley Fuel. If you want to do business with a local company, contact Valley Fuel. If you want to find out how to contact Valley Fuel, go to valleyfuels.com or your No Nonsense Roundtable. Well, welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We're here with Scott Pitoniak, sports writer, author, all-around good guy. And we are now going to talk about, well, last Sunday's game, Super Bowl. And so if there's one thing that you wanted to make a point on about last week's Super Bowl, what would it be?
Probably Patrick Mahomes. I know Bills fans don't want to hear this. The guy is enormously talented, and I think he has the it factor, particularly when the game's on the line. And there's a certain coolness, grace under pressure that he shows, and he showed it that last drive in overtime. His team's trailing. It's all on the line here. Are the 49ers going to finally put an end to the Chiefs? And he goes 8 for 8 on that final drive to the winning touchdown pass. And he's just, they actually did a thing with study of his heart during games. They put the device on him or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they found out in the most pressurized situations that his heart rate was very calm. And I think there's very few athletes, very few people who can, if you measured their heart during a stressful time, whether they're performing, whether they're making decisions, whatever, would be able to do that. And he's got kind of like, they said that about Joe Montana, 4 Super Bowls that he won and stuff, like Joe Cool.
Yeah.
And there's just some athletes like that, during the most tenuous times, high pressure times and stuff, they're just chill.
Yeah. Well, you see that sometimes when they do a close-up of some other quarterbacks, and they look, even if they're ahead by a little bit, they look worried.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it all the time with athletes. Yeah. I've seen, you can tell like when the pressure's really, the heart's pounding and this and that, you can just see like they're too hyped up for the moment.
I enjoyed the game quite a bit because, quite frankly, I didn't care who won. Mm-hmm. Bills aren't in it. I mean, okay, San Francisco and Kansas City, but I don't care. I just want to see a wonderful performance, and we saw a fantastic performance.
Yeah, it was great drama. It didn't start out real great. It was clunky in the first half, this and that, but then it built, and then you've got a game coming down to a final play of an overtime. It's hard to top that.
Hard to top that.
Yeah.
But there's so many other dynamics to this game. You have, the Taylor Swift thing, and you got you got the belly bump, I call it, the Kelsey belly bump, and people's criticism of that. There's so many other things going along with this that you talk about after the fact. I mean, things you couldn't predict and whatever. This Taylor Swift thing, that's got to be good for the game, though, right? I mean, it's getting people looking at it that would normally, especially younger people, that would never look at this. Right?
Yeah, the NFL's got to love this. I mean, I mean, I know like my granddaughters are 10 and 6.
Yeah.
They love Taylor Swift. I'm going to be honest. I have nothing against her either. I have never listened to a Taylor Swift song that I known of or whatever. Yeah. And again, I'm not one of these people like, there's a lot of people have complained, I'm so sick and tired of Taylor. Well, you know what? The New York Times, there was a reporter from the New York Times did a study, like went back and clocked entire games in which, since she started this romance with Kelsey, the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, and in these games, it amounted to the airtime that she got was less than 1 minute in a 3.5 hour broadcast. Now, there was a little bit more because they showed her afterwards in this one or whatever. But yeah, no, anything, it's the same thing like when Michael Jordan momentarily retired from basketball and was going to go play minor league baseball for Birmingham. Remember that? and all these baseball purists were complaining, he's taking time away from a prospect, this and that. I thought it was great. I love baseball. Baseball needed a boost at the time. You've got the most celebrated athlete on the planet is like, thinks enough of your sport. He's going to give it a shot here in the minor leagues after not having played baseball since high school. And, I thought it was great because it brought interest. And so like, yeah, the NFL's got to love it. I know a lot of fans don't, purists, like it should just be about the game. Let's face it, the Super Bowl's not just about the game. It's about everything else.
Yeah.
You know,
half the people are watching they're watching the commercials. For God's sakes.
Right.
You know, but you had this years ago, and people don't comprehend that, you know, it was Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And you know, we look at, for better or worse, we're a culture of celebrity.
Yes.
And so we like that. We like stars. You know, we certainly like stars on a sports stage. And I heard from all these people, I'm not going to watch it. Well, it was the most watched Super Bowl ever, like 123 million or whatever. You know, again, if it brings more eyes, and you know, sports is, you know, the NFL was struggling with the 18 to 49 demographic.
Oh, yeah.
And the Super Bowl in particular, those numbers had gone down.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have extraordinary numbers overall.
Yeah.
But so for this, like, you know, what's the big deal?
Yeah, you know, and the thing is, some of these companies, you got to give them some credit for this marketing. I mean, the State Farm thing with the ads with Mahomes and Andy Reid there, and they are they're personalities. I mean, they're personalities that you see doing some ad, but the ad's compelling.
Yeah,
so, and they're having fun. It seems like they're having fun.
Yeah, they're having fun.
Which brings me to I call it the belly bump. Mm-hmm. You know, so you know, I would imagine it's awfully common to have somebody, you know, yelling at their coach. I mean, it's like you're yelling at your dad, I would think, and you get a little overheated and whatever. And now they're, well, you know, she should drop him because he's a violent guy. You know what he does for a living? This is what I mean. What,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
He's trying to dominate another human being on the field, and he's taught to do that. And I got it, you know. But if the two of them don't have a problem with it, I don't know if the rest of us should.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you know, the whole thing. Like, look, it was not a good look.
No,
you don't want to see.
No, if you had a chance to do it again, if you had a chance to do it again, would you do that again?
Yeah.
No.
But it's the heat of the moment. He is a very high-strung player. Like, I mean, Andy Reid talks about in practices that week, he was very high-strung. Travis Kelce was, you know. But he, you know, a lot of people complained about it. I heard from a number of friends of mine, huge Bills fans and stuff, and they just thought it was deplorable. And I'm thinking, did you forget about Stephon Diggs and how on national television he tried to embarrass Josh Allen? And it's happened on a number of occasions. This is much more commonplace than you think. And I remember Jim Kelly and Chris Burkett, a wide receiver, having a big to-do on a Monday Night Football game. Things happen, folks, in the heat of the battle, and these are emotional human beings out here, coaches and players and stuff. And in this particular game, you're playing for the highest stakes.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't a good look. I would freely admit that. You know, shouldn't bump your coach and stuff, and he kind of joked like, I lost my balance a little bit, like Andy Reid was joking. But in the grand scheme of things, hey, I want my players to be really passionately involved so much. They want to be out there. Right. They want to play. I've seen too many athletes who didn't want to be out there, you know, who really came up small in the big moments or whatever. I want people who are passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, who said it? It says, show me a good loser and I'll show you a loser. Who was that?
Leo DeRocher, wasn't it?
Was it? I think it was. Leo,
Leo the Lip.
Yeah, Leo the Lip. Yeah, one of the most hated people in baseball. Yeah. And at that, we are going to go into another break, and we're going to talk more about the Super Bowl when we get back. This section of the No Nonsense Roundtable is brought to you by, the No Nonsense Roundtable. You see, at the No Nonsense Roundtable, we do marketing for different organizations, and let me give you an example. Here's an ad that we did for the Rotary Sunshine Camp just recently, and it was voiced by Don Alhart.
It's a magical place for kids of all abilities.
At no charge, the Rochester Rotary Sunshine Camp has been serving children of all abilities for the last 100 years. Help us grow into the next 100 years. Go to sunshinecamp.org to learn more about how you can help.
Where kids have no barriers to fun.
The Rochester Rotary Sunshine Camp.
We do all sorts of things, mainly for smaller companies. So if you'd like to investigate the possibility of us doing some work for you, contact me at nononsenseroundtable.com. Well, we're back talking to Scott Pitoniak, a sports writer, author, and all-around good guy. I'd like to put the all-around good guy in that.
I like that. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm going to put on a business card, okay?
Yeah, I'm going to trademark it, and you're going to be screwed. No, I'm only teasing. Now, we're talking about what I have branded the belly bump, but do we know what he was saying to him?
Yeah, he was saying some things that you couldn't write in a family newspaper and couldn't say on the air unless we
beeped it out. We beeped it out.
But he was upset. He wanted to be on the field during a certain play. It's actually, I think, the play where there was a fumble by the running back when they were going down for the touchdown. And he wanted to be out on the field, and he got carried away, and to his credit, like Andy Reid, like if you notice, he kind of he kept the blinders on, because he understood, like, we're early in this game, we're on the biggest stage and stuff. I've seen a lot of incidents where coaches would be like jawing back, and think about when that's going on. Now you've really created a problem.
Yeah,
it's a distraction, and my job is to coach this game, manage this game, be fully, in the moment. And I can't afford this distraction right now, So I thought, had they lost this game, I'm sure people would have been, look at this disorganized team.
Oh yeah.
Selfish player, caring about themselves. They're a mess. It's chaos, right? Yeah. But it's just an afterthought because they won.
Well, you talk about visuals. I mean, how about when Reggie Jackson was pulled out of the game?
Oh yeah, Billy
by Billy Martin, right? I mean, because he wasn't hustling. He wasn't hustling Bremen, and then the video lives forever of the two of them getting into this this argument, this violent argument.
Right, and it played out on a nationally televised game on a Saturday afternoon game of the week or whatever. And let me tell you something. These things are much more common than you could ever imagine. It just is heightened because the Super Bowl, what was there, 216 cameras?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Can you believe that? 200? There were like 5 cameras in each pylon, in the end zone. So what do you have? Like you have a total of what, like 4 for each end zone. So that's like 8. I mean, it's just, think about it. This is the most hyped sporting event on the planet, it seems like, and so every little thing is going to be analyzed and overanalyzed to death, and that particularly the Super Bowl, it just goes on and on and on, just as like even the Bills season will be analyzed all the way to death until the start of training camp, right? Yeah. Or until that first regular season game, and it's time to move forward.
Well, there's always the if onlys. Yes. If only you made the point. The point after. If only. But you could you could do that with your life all told. If only.
You could paralyze yourself. I mean,
yes.
You just couldn't move on. If you're constantly second guessing everything. You got to move on. And if it's something major, then you hope you learn from it and progress from it.
Well, I was looking online yesterday, and they said 3 Super Bowl wins and 28 years old. Is this kid the greatest of all time? I mean, it's a little premature for that, isn't it? Yeah, a little.
Don, what you have to understand, particularly like with social media, it more than ever, it's heightened. Is like, everybody's in the business now of instant analysis, right? Uh-huh. Everything has to be analyzed to death, and we have to have instant takes. Slow down. Like you said, he's 28 years old. He's won 3. He's to me, what he is already, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. We'll get into the discussion of the GOAT, whether he's the greatest of all time. Like, give me 5 or 6 more years before we even entertain it. I mean, Tom Brady has 7 Lombardi trophies, including 1 that he won without Bill Belichick. He's got every passing record under the sun, all the major passing records let's just hold off on that, that discussion. But we can't. Vegas has odds like 2 minutes after the final gun of the Super Bowl. They've got odds for the 2024 season out. Really? Yeah, they're already posted. You can already start placing bets in Vegas.
Now, that brings me to another good question I didn't think about until now. What do you think of this betting thing?
It's ridiculous. It's out of control. And I really believe, Dom, really believe that we are going to have a type of scandal that's going to be like the Black Sox scandal of the 1919 World Series that the Chicago White Sox threw, or the point shaving scandals that, with college basketball that destroyed a number of major programs. It's so available now. It's easy. You go on your phone. It's all there. I'll give you $200 to start out and bet if I'm FanDuel or if I'm this or that. I just think it's out of control. I really do.
Explain to some people the point shaving thing, because I think a lot of people don't understand that there's the White Sox where they actually threw the games.
Yeah.
Okay, so people understand throwing the games.
Right.
The point spread deal for our listeners that don't understand.
So there was this involved university. There was a big powerhouse Central College of New York City and Kentucky and others. And so point shaving is there's a spread on every game. So if Kentucky's favored to beat this team by 7 points, they're giving the other team 7 points. If I'm a player, I'm just using Kentucky as an example. If I'm a player on Kentucky, let's say I'm the point guard, I have the ball in my hands most of the time, and my uncle just put whatever, for us to not beat the spread. He bet on the other team. I can control that. I can control that by missing a shot, throwing the ball away, turning it over, or whatever. Or I could be an official. The NBA had a problem with officials like betting on games, so there's a real danger here. And what I find extremely hypocritical is it wasn't that long ago that, the Super Bowl would not even allow on its telecasts commercials for Vegas talking about tourism in Vegas.
Wow.
That's how fearful they were of gambling. But as we know, money talks.
Yep.
And when money talks, people...
So with the point shaving, you could still win. I mean, so the players would, but yes, we won the game, so they got their, they were successful, but they did it in such a way that the points went the other way, and you could bet on the game, and or we could be favored by 2 points, and we could blow the game, but I still won the money or whatever, Okay, so that brings the next question: Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pete Rose not in the Hall of Fame because he
Yeah.
But in this day.
Well, yeah, I mean, in baseball and every major sport is in bed now with the gambling sites.
Would you say Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame or not?
I have gone back and forth on this. Let's face it. Not everybody who's in the Hall of Fame is there's racists in there. People like Cap Anson who, prevented for 50, 60 years a black player being in Major League Baseball and stuff. So I have a real problem with it. But if you're going to do that, you got to put Shoeless Joe in there, because Shoeless Joe from the Chicago White Sox, who threw the World Series, he received a lifetime ban. He's been dead for 60, 70 years. So if you're going to put Pete in, he's got to go in. Well,
they say Shoeless Joe kind of went along with it, but he wasn't part of it. I mean, they're saying he was too naive or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not, but
I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily the case either. I mean, I think he kind of knew what was going on.
Okay, believe it or not, we have 30 seconds left. What?
Wow.
That
went fast.
There's pressure, yeah,
that went really fast, but I've enjoyed it. Tremendously. I always enjoy talking with you. Again, I love your curiosity. You're inquisitive. It makes for good conversation.
Well, the thing is, I am on this wonderful journey of just meeting people I wouldn't have known, and I learn something every time, and I appreciate you. Both for your friendship and your craft. It just makes me smile. You can see a little smile on my face. It makes me smile the way you write. It really does.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much.
Okay, gang. Next week, right here, 10 o'clock, it's the No Nonsense Roundtable.
Thanks for listening. Tune in every weekend from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.